Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for new moon solar eclipse in Libra. This is the first eclipse in Libra since 2016 and it's very powerful. It's eclipse season. I've been talking about eclipse season in our previous two videos because eclipses are felt 4 to 6 weeks before and 4 to 6 weeks after the exact date. And this month, October, is very intense, very transformative, very shifting, life-changing. Eclipses are game changers. And this month we have two eclipses, one in Libra and the other one in Taurus on the 28th of October. And they are both ruled by Venus. Venus rules Libra, Venus rules Taurus. So we have a very significant role of Venus in all of this. And it's very important to know how to deal with these energies. And we're going to talk about it here. And, astrology for me is not so much about predictions. It's not so much about knowing what is going to happen, fortune telling and other things. It's more about knowing how to live your life. It's like a manual for improving ourselves all the time, and a manual on how to align ourselves with with the divine intelligence, with the cosmic consciousness, how to align our own consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. So here we are talking more on that level of astrological wisdom. And this eclipse will be very significant for all of us in terms of our relationships. And we know that relationships are very important in our lives. Everything is based on relationships. Our whole karma exists because of relationships. If there were no relationships, there would be no karma. So this eclipse is also triggering a lot of karmic connections and disconnections. Whenever we have eclipses, we have karmic resolutions, karmic triggers, karmic connections and disconnections, goodbyes and hellos, major endings and beginnings, life-changing events and situations, things that are meant to be, things that are fated, that are destined to happen, things that are unavoidable and inevitable, things that are necessary to happen. So this is some kind of necessity. It has to happen. And eclipses, their influence is very strong for the next 6 months and even years. And this eclipse will physically last for about 5 minutes. So it will have an influence for 5 years because minutes are aligned with years in this kind of calculations. So we will see a lot changing in our relationships because Libra, the scales, is about balancing. It's about me and you. Libra is others in our life. Libra, it represents mirrors and reflections and projections. It's the significant others. It's those that we see in front of us and those that we compare ourselves with. Our collaborations, our cooperations, our business partnerships, our social interactions, our love relationships, our marriages, unions, divorces, separations, engagements, commitments, partnering up with others, all kinds of one-on-one significant relationships. So any relationship that is important in our life will be triggered in some way. And since this is South Node eclipse, we have South Node and the North Node. So the North Node represents symbolically the head of the dragon, while the South Node symbolically represents the tail of the dragon. So the North Node represents the future, while the South Node represents the past. The North Node represents that towards which we should move to, something that we are aspiring towards, something that is a place of our desires, while the South Node represents something that we should detach ourselves from. It's our past. Those are our tails. Those are things that are we dragging with us. Those are things that have served us, that have been repeated many times over many lifetimes, probably. So it's something that is related to past, because this is South Node eclipse. South Node is in Libra, North Node is in Taurus, is in Aries. These are Aries and Libra eclipses, series cycles of eclipses that began around the July of this year, 2023, and that will last until around January of 2025. So there is some kind of storyline that is being represented now in these eclipses, and it will be coming in waves for this whole period. And eclipses are very much connected to cycles that are a bit longer. So this is something that is probably related to something that we have already been through, or something similar we've been through around 9 to 10 years ago, because this is the last time we had the same series of eclipses happening in Aries and Libra. But then the North Node and the South Node were switched. The North Node was in Libra while the South Node was in Aries. Now we have it different. Now we have the South Node in Libra and the North Node in Aries. And this means that we are moving towards our autonomy, our independence. North Node in Aries, I am principle, the archetype, the strength of being able to make our own decisions, not to ask others for approval, but to know what we want, how we want it, and to do it ourselves. This is what will be our lesson. But there is a tendency now to repeat something, to go through something again. This South Node in Libra is pushing us back. It's like we want to move there, but something is pulling us back. So we will feel this push and pull energy, but this is growth. This is something that is making us grow, actually. This is the moment of evolution and progress and growth. Each eclipse is. And eclipses are also related to longer cycles. So the last time that we had exactly the same energy, the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra was 18 to 19 years ago. It was 2004 and 2005. While this one 9 to 10 years ago was around 2015, 2016. So it's very important to think about what was going on in our lives back then, even if some of you were maybe too young, but what were the patterns that have been developed about relationships? What kind of role models did we all have back then? What kind of lessons did we go through? What kind of unions and separations we've been through? Those lessons that we have skipped or that we haven't learned back then will come back, so that we can acknowledge them and process them and digest them and deal with them and transform them. And those lessons that we have learned, we will now have to apply. So we will see interesting things happening during this time. And so we may be faced with something that we just don't want to repeat anymore, that we just say, I cannot do this again, I cannot go through this again, I don't want to go through this again, I have to change something, I have to make radical change, I have to do it myself, I have to keep my integrity, my dignity, and my autonomy. I have to be independent in making my own decisions. So there will be something that we will have to sacrifice for sure, because South Node is here. And South Node is that lesson from the past. It's our attachment from the past. It's something that wants to be repeated again. And we may have hard time to let it go. We may want to get rid of it, but there could be a situation that tells us, wait, but first you have to deal with me. So there is this tension, of course, there is this tension, but there is a huge opportunity for a massive amount of karmic release during this time. And we will see our traditional roles, how they are being transformed and swept away completely. So we are going to see where are we still attached to some of our traditional roles. What are our traditional roles? How we inherited those traditional roles in our family through our tradition, how we inherited it from our ancestors, so we will be able to break the chain of repetitive traditional roles that we keep on replaying. we will just say, I cannot do this anymore, I've had enough. There will be definitely that moment of repetitive pattern that we are going to recognize, and others will be involved for sure. So somebody else can trigger this in us, or we may be the trigger for somebody else. So there will be this alive interaction, and it can be even surprising. It can be odd and peculiar. It can be a bit weird, just as eclipses are. Eclipse in those places where it's visible. This eclipse symbolically can also bring the eclipse of our mind and the eclipse of our heart. But of course, after the eclipse, there is some new light. So there is always some kind of sacrifice, some kind of ending, some kind of death, so that we can be rebirthed, resurrected. And of course, we have Pluto in the game in this eclipse. And Pluto is making a square with this eclipse. And that's very intense, very deep, very profound, very transformative. And Pluto has been retrograde. Pluto just stationed direct. Pluto is going direct on the 11th of October, and we have this eclipse on the 14th of October. So this is all happening in the right moment. So we will have this exposure of Pluto, and the role of Pluto very important from now on in 2024 as well. Very, very important, because it's changing sign, but we will talk about it some other time. But now Pluto is making square with the moon and the sun in Libra. Pluto is on the very last degrees of Capricorn, and we will see those structures being destroyed. It will be some kind of destructive energy. Pluto represents destruction, but also construction and reconstruction. So we are under construction, and we are being reconstructed. Pluto is also regeneration. So we are being regenerated there where it hurts us, there where we are disbalanced, because Libra is about the balance. So we are going to see, where are we out of balance? Where do we have a lack of balance? Where do we have lack of compassion, lack of understanding, lack of ability to listen, lack of ability to compromise? Where are we completely out of balance? Libra, the scales. So are we standing like this compared to others, or like this? Or are we just here trying to find that sweet point, that middle ground? So Pluto is very profound energy. It can be very dark. It can bring exposure of the shadow, and it will bring exposure of the shadow. We will see our shadows in our relationships. We will see the exposure of shadows of our relationships and of our role in relationships. So we may have to face and confront something that is quite uncomfortable, but it's necessary for our growth. And Libra energy will be here. We have Mercury, forgot to mention. Mercury, the messenger, Mercury, the planet of communication and words and speaking and verbal expression. We have Mercury next to this eclipse in conjunction with the sun and the moon. So it will be a lot about our conversations with others, about how we communicate our wants and needs, how we communicate things to each other, how we express our dissatisfaction of our relationships. Do we speak about it, or are we silent about it? What kind of roles have we inherited from our first role models, our mother and father? How they shaped our image of relationships, how that image is shaped, and how can we reshape it now, so we will be able to communicate, we will be able to say what is wrong. This Mercury here can bring important, significant, life-changing news and messages from others, about others, or through others. Or we may be the ones who share some very valuable information or message or news with others, and our communication can be tense as well. There can be something that just takes us out of our comfort zone, but not only our comfort zone, something that completely shows us that we are out of control and that we have to accept these changes. And this Pluto making a square with the eclipse, and also is making square with the nodes, with the north node and the south node. So it's very intense, again, very deep. It can be something that is pulling out traumas out of us, and we will see how our patterns are actually the very logical consequence of our traumas, and these are also traumas that we have inherited through many lifetimes. And we had Pluto squaring Mars a couple of days ago, and this square is still active during this eclipse, and it will be active for a couple of more days after this eclipse. So Pluto squaring Mars, again, can be violent energy, can be destructive, can be intense. We may have a need to prove our point, to show that we are right, to prove the justice, Libra, the justice, equality, fairness. We may say something, it's not fair. We may want to prove our point. So if we have been putting up with a lot of anger in the last couple of years, maybe what we've been through in the last 9 years or last 18 years, if we have been silent about our wants and needs in our relationships with our friends, with our family, with our partners, with whomever, this anger, when it's not expressed, because anger needs to be expressed, it has to be channeled in some way, but we stuff it down, so we accumulate, and there comes a moment when we explode. There is some kind of trigger and we explode, and then it turns into rage. And this rage can be very dangerous, can be violent, can be destructive, can be volatile, can be revengeful. Especially because now we have Mars in Scorpio. Mars is at the very beginning of the sign of Scorpio, 0 degrees of Scorpio. So it's very young there. It's the baby degrees. So Mars is also the ancient ruler of Scorpio. So he's very strong in Scorpio and can be very demanding, pushy, bossy, too impatient, too aggressive, can be very jealous, can be, this energy can lead us to some incidents, mistakes, accidents, injuries. So it's very important to be able to find that middle ground, to find that sweet point, to turn towards things that are truly important, our true values, to find compromise with others, to practice, to cultivate patience, to cultivate kindness, understanding, because we will be able to do so. Now we have support, of course. It's not only the tension and the conflicts, the dangerous energies. It's not only about something we don't want to do anymore. It's also about something that we want to do in a new way. It's something we want to change. It's something we want to do so that we can have better perspective, better relationship, better understanding. And we will be able to communicate with those with whom we need to communicate in a very friendly way, because we have Mars in a sextile with Venus. This is supportive energy. Mars is the ruler of Aries, Venus is the ruler of Libra. So both axes of Libra Aries, where we have North and South node, their rulers are in harmony. So we have an open door to walk through, to find the solution, to find the common language. Even if we don't agree with others, we are able to respect and honor other people's opinions, other people's perspectives, and to say if we don't get along, we can say we are not on the same wavelength anymore. We just don't understand each other. We speak different language, so we can communicate this. It doesn't have to be something destructive if we don't understand each other. So we will see a lot of this balance in our relationships, but this is eventually all talking about the disbalance within ourselves, of course, because others are our mirrors. And as Rumi said, there is a quote, I am another you, you are another me. And many of us will be able to understand the meaning of this expression, and we will be able to see that others are different aspects of ourselves, and we will be able to see that what we suppress within ourselves, we attract that too. We also attract what we share with others, what we express, what we give, but we also attract that which we suppress, that what we don't want others to know about us. And there will be a lot of hiding and a lot of revelation because of the role of Pluto here. But there will also be a lot of healing because we have Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries, in exact opposition with Mercury in Libra, which is next to this eclipse. So we have a lot of different players on the scene, and they all have their roles, and it will all be manifested through us. And then this is expressed as a drama on our material scene in our lives. And it's up to us how we are going to use these energies. It's up to us how these energies will be channeled and manifested. The more we are aware, the more we are conscious, the easier these energies will be. The more we are unaware, the more we are led by impulsive reactions, the more our decisions are based on disharmony, disbalance, on rage, on revenge, on those things that make us want to, prove our point no matter what. It will be harder for us. The more we resist and reject, it will be harder for us. So it's our task to find this balance within ourselves and to try and see the disbalance that we have in our relationships as this balance that we have within ourselves. Or maybe it can be something that we've been allowing others. We have been allowing others to behave in a certain way, and now we see what we have done. Or we may see our own wrongdoings in certain relationships, and we may feel ashamed of that, and we may want to put a blindfold and don't see it. But this Libra and Mercury in Libra will help us say, it's true, I made a mistake, you are correct, you are right, I am sorry, I apologize, I could do it in a different way, I could say it in a different way. Now I see how I behaved. We may see our own behavior that was very destructive, or that was manipulative, or that was, revolving around emotional blackmails. Of course, these are all unconscious patterns, but we are now able to acknowledge them, to bring them to conscious. This Pluto will help us to bring something from the shadow on the surface, and of course this eclipse will help us bring something to light. It will be eclipsed out, and this eclipse will definitely help us to burn something away, because we have the sun is burning its light during this time on something that has been hidden, something that we have been suppressing, something that we have been afraid of, ashamed of, something that we just don't want to admit, something that we want to avoid. So let's see what we want to give to the sun, to burn it away, to scorch it, to remove it, to purge it. So we will be able to stand in front of ourselves and admit our own mistakes, admit our own wrongdoings, admit that we have also done some things wrong. We have perceived some things in our own way, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that our way is the only way. And there could be a tendency to go in that direction, because we also have Mars and Aries, North Node, and Chiron there. So we may be in a state of my way or highway, but Chiron in Aries will in opposition with Mercury will definitely help us have healing communication. We can express healing words, healing abilities, healing communication, healing conversations, and we are going to heal our own sense of identity in that way. we can come back to ourselves. We can heal our own identity, heal our own autonomy, heal our own sense of being independent. But of course, it won't happen all now. This is a process, because we will have another eclipse. We will have the next eclipse in Libra in March of 2024, and then the next one will be in Aries on 8th of April 2024, and the next one will be next October 2024. So this process will be active for a longer period of time, and it's very important to know how to deal with these energies. And you know, if we are eclipses, imagine if we are somewhere where eclipse is visible in the sky, and we don't know that it's eclipse, and suddenly the sky is darkened. Suddenly, in the middle of the day, we have the night, and in 5 minutes we have the day again. What happened? We may be terrified. There is a shock, there is uncertainty, there is fear of the unknown. We may not know what's going on. We may feel very afraid. We may want to hide somewhere. You know, these kinds of feelings we may have within ourselves. We may go through this eclipse in our minds and hearts. So it's important to know that this is something that is naturally happening, and we have to learn how to keep our own peace amongst the chaos. Libra is the sign of peace, and we can now come in peace in front of others. We can come in peace in front of ourselves. Let's not be so hard on ourselves if we see and recognize our own mistakes and wrongdoings. Let's give ourselves a break, as I always say, if we see something like this, and let's give others a break if they have done something wrong and we just want to push them. You know, we just want to prove our point and make them, you know, say they're sorry 1,000 times or whatever. Let's just give others a break, and let's give ourselves a break. Let's see what is more important. Is it more important to be at peace or to be right? Let's focus on that inner peace within the chaos, and let's focus on being who we are, being true to ourselves. This is about the truth as well. Libra is the truth, and Libra has the archetype of the judges, the lawyers, the counselors, the advisors. So we may want to be a judge now. We may want to be a lawyer. We may find ourselves in these roles. We may be a lawyer between two other people. We may feel like we are a judge in our own relationships. So let's try to detach ourselves from those roles, and let's see, because Libra sees two sides of each story. There are two sides of every story, so we will be able to see both perspectives, to see my own perspective and your own perspective, to see that I am not necessarily right and you are not necessarily right. So let's meet each other. Let's find some compromise. Let's find a way to walk through this together. Let's find a way to build something together, to create something together, not to destroy things together. Let's find a way to pull each other up, not to push us down. You know, if we are drowning in the water, we are not going to push others down in order for us to survive. We are going to try to save ourselves first so that we can save others. So this is a lot about finding the right way to work these things through. And it's also not good if we are keeping peace at all costs, which is also Libra archetype and meaning. Keeping peace at all costs. No, if we feel angry about something, if we feel that there is some injustice, if we feel that there is something that is not fair, let's communicate it. We have support now from Mercury here in Libra and opposition with Chiron in Aries, so we can heal this through conversation. We can make it happen. It's not only about me. It's also about you. I am not alone in this world. There are others. So we have to try to find the way to make things functional, not to make things dysfunctional, which is something that we mostly tend to do. So maybe others will trigger something in us, and if they do, let's be grateful for this, because we have to see our triggers now. Triggers are very important. I always say what triggers us releases us. Those triggers are our very powerful points that lead us towards the root cause of the trauma. Those triggers are like those stones that in the tale of how are they called, Hansel and Gretel, in the tale, and they are lost in the woods, but they are leaving the stones. They are dropping them so they can find their way back home. So in the same way, these triggers are those stones that help us find our way back to the root cause of the trauma so that we can release it. And these energies are meant to come up. The shadow is meant to be pulled out on the light so that we can see it. This is a time of big emotional reset of our relationships, reset of who we are with others, of my role in relationship, of what can I do for you and what can you do for me, to make you feel better, to inspire you, to motivate you. So it will be important to be ourselves, North Node in Aries, to be true to who we are, to keep our autonomy, to show our independence, but not in an arrogant way, in a powerful way, in a way that, we are able to stand tall, to deal with our weaknesses, to deal with our vulnerabilities, and in this way of being true to who we are, to inspire others, Libra, to make them, to be the role model to others, but not to become, again, arrogant in that, not to think that we are better than others or that others are better than us. This is never going to work. Our blaming games, they are never going to work. They never do anything good to any of us. There is this saying, blame is lame. It really is. So where are we blinded about something? We are going to see it now. It can be blinding as well, because, if we are too long in the darkness, if we stay too long in a dark room, and then we go out where there is the sun, the daylight, we may need some time to adjust our sight, our vision, and to see clearly, to see things clearly. And where is Venus right now, the ruler of this eclipse? She is in Virgo, and she just made an opposition with Saturn in Pisces also. So this is this opposition is very strong. Venus in Virgo, Saturn in Pisces. So there is some collective emotional responsibility that we feel, and we want to do it right. We don't want to make mistakes. Venus in Virgo, she is very considerate, very careful. She takes care about every detail, and Venus in Virgo wants to combine what is beautiful and pleasurable with what is efficient and practical, because what is pleasurable and beautiful is Venus, and what is efficient and practical is Virgo. So Venus in Virgo wants to combine both, but she may be too focused on details, too afraid to do something in order not to make a mistake, because Saturn in opposition maybe said no to her. She wanted to do something, but Saturn said, no, you cannot do it now. So there was this moment of freeze, of a pause, of a break. So we will have to do it slowly. There is unnecessary moment for us to slow down, especially with these squares with Pluto, square between Pluto and nodes, square between Pluto and eclipse, square between Pluto and Mars. So let's be very, very patient, very careful, like Venus in Virgo, but again, not too much so that we are frozen, but to be able to communicate. We have Mercury in Libra in opposition with Chiron, so healing conversations, they are very possible now. And although some people may find this, terrifying and fearsome, others will find it very exciting, and others will find it very healing. So for each of us, it will be manifested in a different way. But as I said, it's up to us how we are going to deal with these energies, how we are going to channel them. All these energies of events that are happening, of different forces, of Mars, of Pluto, of Venus, of eclipses, they all act in a pretty much neutral way through us. But they receive the polarization when they reach us and our nervous system and our mind and body. Then, according to us, our own ability to work with these energies, they switch to either negative polarity or positive polarity. So depending on that, on us, on what are our thoughts like, what are we focused on, where is our attention, what are we talking about, what are our themes, what themes prevail in our lives, what kinds of relationships prevail in our lives, what kinds of thoughts prevail in our lives, what kinds of emotional patterns prevail. According to those things, these energies will be manifested. So it's very powerful if we can do some kind of self-healing therapies. This is a moment for therapies, for any kind of therapy that can help us, for any kind of prayer that works for you or for me. Whatever works for you, use it in order to calm yourself down, to ground ourselves, to feel at peace, but not in a forceful way. Of course, we cannot force ourselves to be at peace if we are not in peace, if we are anxious, if we are disbalanced. But we can find a way. We can find a way to work this through. We don't have to arm others or ourselves. We don't have to be self-destructive or destructive. We can find different way to work with these energies. We can transform these energies. Pluto, transformation. Pluto and Mars, transformation of this Mars energy, transformation of our reactions, transformation of our shadow, transformation of all our wants and needs. We can convert them into something more constructive, into something that is regenerating us. Regeneration, remember, Pluto. And Pluto is also about the power. So we may feel these power struggles with others. We may be immersed in some kinds of power struggles with others. We may have a need to go into those power struggles, like we are pulling the rope and we feel that others are pulling the rope, so we want to pull it back, but they are pulling there too. So, this kind of situation is not getting us anywhere. It's much better if we release this rope. And then let's see where we are with each other. We can feel this strong tension, like something is about to break, something is about to explode, something is about to burst open. And it could be us. There could be these volcanic eruptions. But again, as I said, we have Mars sextile Venus, so we have this beautiful harmonious energy between masculine and feminine energy. The divine masculine and divine feminine are in harmonious energy relationship now, so we can attract this balance and harmony within ourselves and in our relationships with others as well. And we may not like what others have to tell us now. We may go through some kind of conversation with someone that we don't like. We may hear something that we don't like. We may hear some offering that we are maybe not comfortable with. But this is something that is now giving us a little bit of, those clues that we can resolve some of our old, ancient, karmic patterns. We can now resolve them. We can work through them. We can find the solution. And you know, it is showing us what we didn't see before in our relationship dynamics. And this is about how we share our energies with others. As I said, Libra wants balance. And there is something that we are going to notice that is out of balance. But it's how we react to this. Mars reaction, North Node in Aries, we want to react. But let's see what this reaction can bring, what kind of consequences this kind of reaction will bring. Let's not just be impulsive. You know, this behavior is good if we are in some kind of danger and we have to react quickly. Like if somebody is falling from a cliff, so we have to react impulsively and react now. This is when Mars energy and Aries energy is very, very needed and wanted, when we have to react quickly, when there is some danger. But if we are doing this in our relationships, in our communication with others, if there are those delicate themes between us, then it's not good to have these impulsive reactions, because it can be destructive. So it's much better if we can find a way to connect, to reconnect, but with ourselves. If we are in disconnection with who we are, Aries, North Node, we are in disconnection with who we are with others as well. And then we feel this emptiness within ourselves. Then we have this need to continuously feed ourselves and fulfill ourselves with something. So it's very important to recognize this emptiness, to see that if there is this emptiness, it means that we are not connected with who we are. So it's a message for us to work with ourselves, you know, not necessarily working on ourselves, but working with ourselves actively, proactively. Mars, you know, take action to work with ourselves, to bring balance within ourselves, so that we can work things through with others, and not always running in those repetitive circles that lead us nowhere, that just, you know, we always say, like, why is this always happening to me? Why am I always attracting these kinds of people? Why am I always treated like this? You know, but this is not about others. You know, if you are, especially if we are attracting different people with the same role, it's a message for us, from us. So this Chiron in Aries is now giving us an opportunity to heal ourselves. Chiron is an inner doctor, inner guru, inner shaman, you know, our inner therapist. So we can do this now with ourselves. We can be our own therapists. We can be a therapist to somebody else. Let's be a therapist to each other, instead of being, you know, the torturers of each other. As I said, it's very good time for going on a therapy, for being on a therapy, if there is a need for something like that, or for therapeutic conversations. Mercury opposition with Chiron. And we are going to realize something that works no longer, something that doesn't work anymore, and it is something that isn't equal, something that isn't built on equal foundations. And this will be again a message for us to see what is not right in me, so that I am attracting these scenarios, so that I'm attracting these kinds of behaviors, these kinds of words, these kinds of, what is it within myself? What is there some rage within me? What are my first patterns about relationships? What are my first impressions and imprints when I was a child? Who are my first teachers? Who are my first role models that I looked up upon? And how I created, not I, but how this pattern was created in myself, so that I'm attracting this same thing again and again and again. This repetition, the South Node, something from the past that really needs to break, that needs to crack. And as I say, whenever we have eclipses, if something materially breaks, if we break a glass, not intentionally, but if a glass breaks, if a plate breaks, if something falls apart, it's good because something has been released, so it doesn't have to break within us. So let's just know this again. Whenever we have eclipse seasons, this is very good to know, because there is so much tense energy and powerful forces that they create something very dense and things just break. So it's good to know this too. And whenever we have eclipses, energies are very strong on our minds and our unconscious, subconscious realms. So pay attention to your dreams as well. Dreams can give us some kinds of solutions too. Dreams can show us also what is not right, what is in disbalance, who are we dreaming of, why are we, if we have repetitive dreams, if we repetitively dream of someone, why is this person showing up in my dream, what this person reminds me of, what does that mean for me, what kinds of associations I have because of this. So big, huge energies that will be showing all around us. Synchronicities are happening all the time. We are going to be able to recognize them. These synchronicities will speak to us loudly and clearly now. And whenever we ask a question, whatever we have to ask, we say it in ourselves mentally. We ask a question, and when we look around us, what we see will give us that answer. But we have to learn how to feel those answers. It doesn't necessarily have to be very rational. It is more symbolic kind of way. So let's see what we see around us in those moments. Or when we think about someone, what do we see around us? What is in our close surroundings? What is in our environment? What kind of symbols first do we see? And that will help us find some answers as well. We have to learn how to tune in with ourselves. We have to learn how to listen to our inner voice as well. We have to learn how to listen others. But we have to learn how to listen ourselves first if we want to hear what others have to say. We all love when we are being heard. I spoke about this in last year when we had Libra energies. We want to be heard. Nobody likes when somebody interrupts you while talking, or if you are not listening, or if you are listening just for the sake of having a moment when you can say your problems, your issues, your point of view. Are we really listening to what others are saying? Do we have a capacity to make a compromise? Do we have a capacity to hear, to listen, to allow others to have their own expression? But we may say, but others are doing the same. It doesn't matter. When we start doing this, we will inspire others to do the same. When we start listening to others truly from the heart, others will immediately start listening to us from their heart too. So let's see if we are listening to others only because we want to say something on that. We want to use what they said just so that we can say something about us. Let's see, what are we missing in our conversations? What is missing? Are our conversations healing? Are they making us feel healthy, or are they making us feel sick? Are they exhausting us, or are they recharging us? Many conversations are exhausting because we are not listening to each other, because we are not heard and we don't allow others to be heard. That's why these conversations are exhausting. When we see someone and we spend an hour or two with that person and we talk, but we feel exhausted after that because we didn't listen. We didn't listen. And we maybe didn't say what we wanted to say. Because why we don't say things we want to say? Because we are afraid we will be rejected, or we are afraid of other people's reactions, or we are afraid of how we will be received, how our vision will be received. So this is a time to come back to our vision, North Node in Aries. We have to be able to say what we want, how we want it, in our own way. And if others don't like it, that's okay. It's not an apocalypse. And now when I said apocalypse, this word reminded me that, I know that many people are imagining some kind of apocalyptic scenarios in their minds all the time, like this is going to change something. No, let's start imagining some different scenarios, some different realities. Why do we have to imagine apocalyptic scenarios all the time? This is something that brings apocalypse in our relationships as well, apocalypse in our relationships with ourselves. When our minds are glued, attached to those kinds of thoughts and visions and scenarios, we definitely attract those kinds of visions and scenarios in our lives. So let's see what kind of thoughts we have, what we create with our thoughts, what we create with our intentions, what we create with our memories, with our subconscious programmings, with our relationship patterns that we have inherited from very early on. And we may see something that is no longer good for us, and that's good. If some relationships have to break, they will break. It's not the end of the world. This is very important to know this. It's not the end of the world if a relationship breaks. It can be the best thing that happened to us, actually. So let's accept these changes that this eclipse is bringing. Let's accept changes no matter how intense or hard this can be, because we have to trust the process, that this is connecting us with our soul's purpose. Are we disconnected from our soul? That's why we feel empty on the inside, because we are disconnected from our soul's journey. And, we will see something that is not satisfying for our experience. It is not satisfying for our soul to repeat something 10 times, 20 times, 100 times. It's not satisfying. It's satisfying when we do something refreshing, something renewing, something rejuvenating. This is, after all, new moon solar eclipse, but it's eclipse, so it's not really a time for some brand new beginnings, especially because we have this south node here representing past. But there will be some kind of sacrifice and ending that will trigger the new beginning for sure. So, because this is eclipse, also be careful with going into any brand new projects right now. Let's wait a little bit more, patience, slow down. Venus opposition Saturn. Let's take details into consideration. Let's be careful. Let's do this right. Let's find the solution. Let's find common language through our common sense. We are clearing out something, and we are making a new promise to ourselves. We are making a new promise to ourselves and to our soul, that we won't make the same mistake again, that we will become better, that we will do everything to improve ourselves, to improve our connection with who we are. And there is a new standard that we are setting for ourselves now. This new standard will be something that will be very important in the next 2 years. So let's see what new standards are we setting for ourselves. And we have to know that we cannot control others. We can never control others. No matter how much we would love that, no matter how much we need that, we cannot control decisions of others. We cannot keep others to our side forever. We cannot control what others will say or do. We can only control how we are going to react on that, how we are going to deal with that, how we are going to handle that. So let's focus more on that, because North Node, the point of focus, is in Aries. It's not in Libra. South Node is in Libra. Something we have to detach from, something we have to remove. So we have to get rid of certain pattern in our relationships of something that has been repeated many times, and we have to focus on what we need and what we want, but not in a selfish and arrogant way, of course, but in a way that is truly reminding us of how to be aligned with our purpose, with our soul, with who we are. and there is, we are experiencing a leveling up in our relationships. There is certainly leveling up in our relationships, but first it may seem as if we are being pulled back. And of course, before any new beginning, before anything that is a progress, first we feel like we are degrading before it happens. So let's not be afraid if we feel that we are maybe degrading or that we are being, pulled back, because we have to, make a step back so that we can see things more clearly and then run into the new dawn, because this is what is happening now. And if we trigger some new beginning, we may first feel the opposition of that new beginning. That is how the universe works. So let's be patient. If something doesn't work right away, let's not lose our willingness and power to move on with that. Let's keep our dream. Let's believe in our dream, because it will definitely be able to come true if we have trust in ourselves and if we trust the process. And this is happening internally through our self-awareness, and this reveals to us where we don't want to go back to previous cycles, to previous version of ourselves, to previous levels of consciousness. This means responsibility. Saturn in Pisces in opposition with Venus in Virgo tells us that we have to take responsibility for how we feel, what we do, what we go through, for our soul connection. We have to know how to hold compassion, and we have to know how to surrender in order to be able to understand each other. This is what I thought, what I meant when I said just release that rope that you are pulling so hard. Just release it in order to find understanding, mutual understanding with others. And there is this strong deconstructional force now. So let's use it to our own benefit. Let's take advantage of that deconstructive force to deconstruct ourselves. We have to allow ourselves for destruction of those parts of us that are not supporting our future. Those parts of us that are no longer serving us have to be destroyed so that something new can be born. If something is about to be rebirthed, rebirth happens only if something dies first. So something first has to die so that it can be reborn. So we will face some kind of loss, as I said, some kind of sacrifice, some kind of death. But then comes the rebirth for sure. There are new forms of self-expression being made, and we are stepping out of those traditional roles. As I said, we are able to bring that masculine and feminine synergy within ourselves, and we have to have larger perspective to be able to see things, to see the bigger picture of everything. And it's very good time for reflection, for seeing our projections, for allowing our shadows to be exposed, for allowing ourselves to be wrong, to say if we are wrong, to say it, to mean it, to forgive ourselves, and to see that eventually there was nothing to be forgiven. Everything is perfectly aligned in this game of karma and free will. But what we do with these energies it's up to us. And how are we acting? How are we reacting? What kinds of words we use? Are we using them to heal or to kill? Because words can be healing or killing, as we know. And we have to make this reconnection with our true selves, and to create more healing into this world, to be a part of that larger cycle of the collective healing. But of course, not to think that we can change everything. We can change everything within ourselves. That's where the change begins. And let's do our best to bring those inner healers and inner shamans and inner doctors, to bring them out, to use them for our own benefits, and then to use them to help others who are drowning as well. Let's save ourselves from that drowning, and let's give a hand to others to help them from drowning, instead of pushing them and saving ourselves first by killing them, metaphorically speaking. So let's give our best to truly use this shadow, to dance with this shadow, to see all the beauty and the terror of those shadows, and to integrate them within ourselves, and to be able to communicate about it, to find compromises, to say no if we have to say no, to say yes if we want to say yes, without being afraid of saying those things, without being afraid of being rejected or being seen in the way we don't want to be seen. This is who we are, this is who I am, and I come in peace. Aries and Libra. This is who I am, Aries, and I come in peace, Libra. So with this, I would end this forecast of this eclipse, this powerful energy. And I would love to thank you all again for really amazing comments. As always, I'm really always amazed. Always, always, always. Really, they inspire me all the time. I go through each comment. I cannot reply to all of them, but to most of them I do reply. And I would love to invite you again to leave your comments, share your feelings. Let's see if this resonated with you, and how will this unfold in the next couple of weeks and months, and probably a year. And I invite you all to share your experiences, your past experiences as well, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 18 years ago, who can remember these things. And let's see, because when we share these things, when we express these things, we can remember, and we can connect the dots of what was happening then, what is happening now, and how then and now is not different, because there is no then, now, and after. Everything is happening in a circular spiral, non-linear way, just as we do, just as we live, as we breathe, as we connect and reconnect. We always come back together, no matter what happens. So let's give our best to do this, to walk through this, to find compromises, and to be healers to each other. Thank you, love you all, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.